This is my Seiko prosthetic art project. So, just go. So, PO1. Describe the basic traditional techniques and process useful to an artist in the games industry today. Some techniques that are useful in the games industry today are perspective. Perspective is used to create a realistic impression of depth. This creates a 3D space on a 2D page. Color theory. What color works well together and which not, as well as which colors get mixed together to make a desired color, is what color theory is. Proportion. Proportion is the size of an object compared to a different object. For example, a glass will be smaller than a person. Composition. How the art or pieces are laid out on a page. Composition is a term used to usually refer to the arrangement of elements within a work of art. Concept artist. A concept artist draws detailed designs of environments, enemies, and characters. The drawings are then used to help with the 3D artist to create the models for the game. When becoming a concept artist, you need to be a good drawer, have a creative imagination, knowledge of art software, communication, and knowledge on games as a whole. These techniques are important in the games industry because you would want to have the game looking realistic if you're aiming for that, or if you want the colours of the game to complement each other. Perspective is important in the game industry, as if the game is meant to be a 3D, then perspective is needed, otherwise everything will look flat or on the same level. Artists use 2-point and single-point perspective when drawing or designing levels to make the 3D drawing. Color. PO4, P8. Demonstrate and understand. Demonstrate an understanding of color, value, light, and shade. Color. Artists use color to create a mood, such as dark colors create a sad and mellow mood, with colors such as black, grey, and blue, whereas bright colors create a happy mood, such as yellow and orange. Color can be used to draw the eye to the piece of work, as well as portray certain emotions, such as green representing envy, red also may also make you feel angry, or it also has ties to making people feel hungry when they look at it, which is why some fast food restaurants such as McDonald's and KFC use red. Value is the likeness of darkness. It's a likeness or darkness of tones or colors. Value defines how light or dark a color or hue is. They're usually shown on a scale or gradient from dark to light or light to dark. Light. Lighting creates shadow and highlights. This makes the image more realistic. Light is used to help create depth in drawing, as well as create the focus of a light source. Shade. Shade is a mixture with black, which increases the darkness. Shading is used in drawing to depict a range of darkness by applying media more densely or with a darker color to make a darker area, and using less of the media or lighter colors for lighter areas. This helps create the illusion of depth on paper. PO1, P2, Michelangelo proportion. This is a drawing done by Michelangelo depicting the proportions of the human body in the top right. The drawing shows that so the person is the same height if he were to stretch his arms out and measure from the tip of one finger to the tip of the other. And the human body is also shown to be approximately, including the original head, six heads from the feet to the scalp. This image is important in game design in both 2D and 3D, as it's the standard T-pose for character design. The drawing at the bottom is called an encourage. This depicts a human muscle anatomy. This is useful in games design because you'll be able to design a convincing model of the human body using the layouts of the muscles. And here we have the roughly 6 heads from the top to the bottom. P1, P2, Jan Vermeer composition. See the next page for my use of composition grid lines. The love letter top right was drawn using the rule of thirds. You can clearly see the way that the painting is laid out, that is in 3 distinct parts. The first segment is the water damaged wall. The second shows a woman receiving a music lesson, and the last segment shows a chair and a curtain. As well as being split lengthways, the painting can also be split horizontally. First showing the curtain and a few paintings. The second is the music lesson, and the third shows the floor and the mop. The bottom is a nameless painting. I couldn't find who created it. This painting uses the golden ratio. This is the path that your eye follows when looking at the painting. We start off by looking at the bottom right of the corner, following the line up to the ceiling, and back down to the mat and into the hands of the woman. And here we have the rule of thirds and the golden ratio used in the photos. P1, P2, Leonardo da Vinci perspective. The Last Supper, top right, uses perspective to draw your eye to Jesus in the middle. This shows that the figure in the middle is the most important, as your eyes are being drawn to him. At the bottom, uses linear perspective. It's useful for games designers to be able to draw your idea of the layout of the map for a game, as well as show the focus points of concept art. Linear perspective is when a line is used to create the look and feel of a 3D space. This can be used to make a street or a forest lane, for some examples. Linear perspective have been used in the bottom right of the second image to add depth for the drawing. For example, so that one staircase appears further away than the other. And here we have how it uses perspective to draw in your eyes. Here we have my drawings for perspective. At the top, I've got my original drawing. Underneath, I've got my redone drawing, and at the left, I've got the original one that I based this drawing off. Here I've got composition. Again, top, I've got the original one. Second, I've got my redraw, and lastly, off to the side is the original drawing that I'm using as base for the image. And lastly, you've got proportion. Again, at the top, my original drawing. Second is my redraw, and lastly, what I'm basing the drawing off. And here we have my life drawing for hands. I've got first a screwdriver, holding some scissors, and holding a knife. And here we have my screwdriver drawing, my scissors drawing, and my knife drawing. I'm quite unhappy with the outcome of the hands. I've got the proportions off. The biggest problem I have is the fingers. They end up looking like sausages or chocolate fingers, as they're either too wide or they are either too thin. I will improve this by measuring the length of the fingers using a ruler or other measuring device. This should at least help the fingers being the wrong shape. I'll be redrawing these at some point. Primary sources is when you take your own photographs for a particular object or draw/paint straight from it, whereas secondary is when you use someone else's work or photos as reference for your own drawings. Both have their own advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of primary sources is that you can look all around the object, feel its texture, and take photos of the angles you want. Disadvantages of primary sources is if you don't own or are unable to come in contact with what you want to photograph, then you're unable to draw or model that thing, such as planets from outer space or an animal in a different country. If you don't have access to that, you can't use primary. Advantages to secondary sources is that you are able to touch and see, to see and use photos for things you might not come in contact with, such as lines or planets. This makes it so your catalogue of items has been vastly grown. Disadvantages of this are that you're unable to feel the object or potentially find photos from all angles. This is an example of my primary drawing. I've drawn this I've drawn out this photo of my Shoto Todoroki pop vinyl. I've used Copic markers for the colour and black lines. If I were to redraw this, I would be more careful around the nose, as unfortunately the black seeped over the nose and covered the shading that I put there. Here's my redraw. I've redrawn a photo of the Shoto Todoroki pop vinyl in digital media. I did this as I prefer to work this way, and I think by drawing in digital you have more tools available, and when you make some mistakes you can easily remove it without potentially ruining the piece. I prefer how this has turned out compared to my original drawing. The hardest part to draw was the flames and ice, as this was in the photo that's actually slightly transparent, but here I couldn't incorporate that into the drawing. I've copied this drawing for the Pokemon Squirtle as my secondary. Next time I would like to make it look less pixelated, as I did this on Paint originally. Here's my redraw. I use an actual drawing software for this. I think it looks much better than the original drawing, but I should have added some shading as it looks a little bit too flat. If I were to redraw this, I will include some shading. The part that I like the most about the drawing is the eyes, as they consist of 4 to 5 different colours. Here's some experiments in digital media. I've drawn Pikachu, Charmander, and Bulbasaur from Pokemon. I don't particularly like the drawing of Charmander, as it looks a bit too pixelated, but I do like the drawings for Bulbasaur and Pikachu, as they both look nice and smooth, but Pikachu does look a little bit more pixelated than Bulbasaur. And off to the right, I have drawn my own design for Pokemon using what I've learned from drawing these three. And I've got, if you want to read this, I've got a little Pokédex entry for a little lore behind the Pokemon if you're interested in that stuff. Okay, I'm going to move on now. My digital redraws, I've redrawn the Pikachu, and I've also just drawn a more Morpeko. And I think these look far better than my original digital drawings, and I prefer them. They look better and don't look pixelated. This is experiment 2. I've got coloured markers where I've drawn Squirtle, Dratini, Morpeko, and Morpeko Hungry mode. Or Angry mode. It's my watercolour pencils one, where I've drawn out Charmeleon and Wartortle in with watercolour pencils, and I think I could have done this a bit better. I've done some more drawings with acrylic paint, where I've done Gigantamax EV, Pikachu, Gigantamax Dreadnought, and Gigantamax Meowth. Mixed Media 1, the digital and coloured pencils. This piece was made by drawing out the line work on my PC with a drawing tablet, and then printed it out and used artist colour pencils to colour it in. Mixed Media 2, digital and acrylic. This piece was made by drawing out the line work on my PC with a drawing tablet. I then printed it out and used acrylic paint to colour this in. I had to mix different colours to get the desired colour for some parts, like grey. And lastly, digital media Copic markers. This piece was made by drawing out the lines again on my PC, and then printed it out and used Copic markers to colour it in. Light. Light is used to help create depth in drawing, as well as create the focus of a light source. Thomas Quintain was born in 1950 and died in 2012. 1 in every 20 American homes owned a copy of his paintings. He uses pastel colours to create his paintings, a large proportion of which were based on Disney films. Due to the vibrant colours of the paintings, he was known as a painter of light. This was because his paintings showed a lot of light coming from lamps or the sun in a vibrant and realistic way. He was known for using the painting's style luminism, which shows the effect of light in landscapes throughout the use of aerial perspective and visible brushstrokes. His talent spanned many genres and artistic styles. Colour. Colour can be used to draw the eye to the piece, as well as portray certain emotions such as envy, anger, and hunger. Monant is an artist who would paint the same landscape at different times and seasons. Watch which painted will show the passage of light and time. One its painted consists of 9 colours, which are white, yellow, cameron yellow, vibrant green, and emerald green, French ultramarine, cobalt blue, crimson, and vermilion. He doesn't use any other colours, instead he mixes the ones that he does use to create various different shades and browns. His style of art is Impressionism, and modern art and the media that he uses is oil paint. Clay would paint his pieces usually in white or light yellow or pale grey canvas. When painting, he would use opaque colours, which he will use straight from the tube. If he needs to mix colours, he'll do so on the canvas. He would paint with thin layers, so that this allowed other colours to pass through. He was one of the founders of the Impressionism style. And the impressionist style is when artists were not painting a reflection of real life, but what the artist saw and felt with the object of colours, light, and landscape. Colour is an element that adds pleasure, interest, and emotion to an artist's piece. The art can show the actual colour of an object, or can actually show emotion using various different colours. Shade is used with light to create depth and 3D drawings on a 2D space. Diego started his work by drawing koi carp-fish. Then he then moved on to draw Japanese-style tattoos, later moving on to human portraits. The drawings are done in a photorealistic style, but are completely made of pencil and charcoal. He's held multiple exhibits in his career. Diego uses pencils and charcoals in drawing. He uses extreme precision and extreme attention to detail to create highly detailed artwork. Each piece takes around 200 hours. He uses extreme calculation and attention to detail from looking at photos of his drawings. He appears to work on canvas and uses hundreds of shades of Kuroshio technique, which achieves unbelievably photorealistic art. So shades of chiaroscuro is a technique which uses strong contrast between light and dark to give a realistic 3D effect. Value. Value is defined how light or dark a colour or hue is. They're usually shown on a scale or gradient from dark to light. The contrast lowers with the more tonal variance in the image. When shades of a similar value are used together, a low contrast image is created. The different values is called contrast, which is the lightest white and the darkest black tones of a piece of art. With different number of grey variants in the middle, they're also present in coloured images. Leonardo da Vinci was an Italian painter who painted landscapes and portraits. Leonardo used various different media such as oil paints, painting in wood, tempera, and more. Not only was he an artist, but also a magician, scientist, inventor, and writer. Leonardo would first create a detailed layer in a natural grey or brown. He would then apply his colours of transparent glazes on top. Some of the underpainting would show through the layers, helping to create form. This method allowed him to produce luminous tones. The light would be able to pass through the layers and reflect back from the primer coat. Leonardo used different versions of the technique Kuroshio, which involved varying the darkness of colour by adding black pigments rather than making more saturated hue. Primary colours are red, blue, and yellow. These colours cannot be made from other colours and are used to make every other colour apart from white and black. Secondary colours are orange, green, and purple. These colours are made using 50-50 mix of both paints. And tertiary colours are colours made by mixing the secondary colours with the primary colours. Here's my 12-part colour wheel. I used acrylic paint, and starting from the top and going clockwise, we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, red, purple. This piece of artwork was created to advertise the Overwatch anniversary event for the game Overwatch. The artwork gives you a sense of awe as you look at it. The poster draws your eyes around the page, following the lines. The colour helps with the aura factors using mainly gold and black and purple, as well as a few highlights of other colours like blue and gold, like blue. The gold and purple contrast each other, and the clashing of light and dark is a large theme in the lore of the game, and the poster reflects that. And here we have the way your eye follows on the page, starting by going down the rocket blast of Thera, going up the staff of Mercy, down Widowmaker's grappling hook, through across all the other characters, and going round and ending at Zoe's beam. This piece of art can convey multiple emotions. The girl in the painting could be feeling sorrow, covering her eyes with her hand to cry, but she could also be embarrassed and trying to hide her embarrassment. She could also be scared and trying to make herself being smaller and trying to hide. The method that was used to make the piece makes it look as if it's an old photo or painting with dots rather than full blocks of colour. This helps show a feeling of distress and disorientation. For my final piece, I'm influenced by Attack on Titan, so I want to make the arm look as if the game has a crossover with a different property. But my first idea before this was to make an arm based on Pokemon, an arm that throws Pokeballs with Sekiro versions of the three starters. But Pokemon is made for children, including in a game with lots of blood. It's made for adults, would not fit. Therefore, about crossover with a popular TV show from Japan, as the company that makes the game is based there. I had a list of a few different shows, but ultimately went for Attack on Titan. I chose this because the show is popular in Japan, it's made for adults and older teens, and the characters most often use a sword. This is the best fit for crossover, as the game and show are both made for adults. I will be using parts of the show to create the arm and abilities. I've got my first final piece mood board, where I've got examples of what characters wear, their swords, and then a bunch of images from the game showing his prosthetic arm. Final piece for the concept, I'm introduced by other Japanese art culture. So start with this, I'll make it look like it's wearing a torn and worn scouting uniform from AOT. The blade would be at the end, where the hand would be with a guard that looks like the hand is holding it. In the show, the blades are flexible and sharp. I'll incorporate this into the gameplay, but because they're sharp and easy for your enemies, I'll make it so the blades, like in the show, will break if you use them too many times. Maybe 2 to 3 hits. This should make it so the game is more balanced, as we'll do a lot of damage, but we'll use up quickly. Sekiro will be able to carry 2 extra blades at a time, and the reload time would be about 1.5 seconds, so the player can't spam the sword. Let's have to remove them, get out the new one, and place it in. The secondary ability would be potentially be called Titan or something. When activated, Sekiro will cut his flesh with his blade. He'll grow to the size of a normal NPC character. This is representing growth of the characters to go through in the show when they turn into Titans. But he doesn't go too tall, we're just making him a bit taller, it's a bit short compared to everyone else. So just represent that. His attacks are more powerful, but he's slower and receives more damage from behind, as this represents the Titan's weak spot in the show, which is the back of an ape. This transformation will last 3-4 seconds, just enough to give you an edge in battle, but not too long, so you can't be overpowered. The recharge will take potentially at most a minute to recharge, but I think maybe 30 seconds might be a bit better. For the final piece, I originally thought making the arm look realistic to have the scouting uniform sleeve torn and ripped with green bandage like part tied to the arm. This should be a reference to the green cloak the character something to wear, but eventually my idea sort of expanded a bit differently from this. This is my final piece, draft sketch 1. This is my rough sketch of what I would like my final piece to look like. I want the arm to have the blade attached to it, so I want a bandage made from the scouting uniform cloak. I want to include a drawing of the broken blade and the Titan's transformation progress with an explanation. The sleeve of the jacket should be torn and dirty with holes in it. Here we have it more detailed. And here's my final piece, draft. This is the original design for the arm. It will be covered in dirt and blood. The bandage on the shoulder will be torn. The badge on the shoulder will be torn and faded. With the special abilities activated, Sekiro will grow to the size of other NPCs and will receive a buff in attack, but we'll see more damage from behind. This of course, again, is represent the weakness in the show, but not only would it be challenging, but it would be a nice Easter egg for fans. The DLC would also include some new voice lines that would hold Easter eggs to and references to the show. These lines could potentially include, we're low in health, I could really use a steamed potato right now, referencing Sasha eating steamed potato during the introduction process. AFK, you can hum a bit of the theme like for example. When he enters the town, I hope there's no walls or something. We're referencing the walls of humanity hides behind the Titans. And yeah, when it activates his ability, he could have. I thought it'd be a more theatrical, whereas lightning, because when they when they transform, there's like a big lightning flash, and just to name a few. For I like that my title, but it could be better if it didn't include another IP in the name, just like Titan Arm, for example, instead. Look real rather than a sentence. I think about moving the arm so that it starts at the top right corner and goes to the bottom left. I'm also going to change the style to fit the Seiko game. I should also fill in any dead space, and I like the background for the game. Could work more on the blade as it doesn't look too good. Here's my new final piece. This is my new final piece. I've changed the look to the arm to fit better the Seiko style. The arm has a torn sleeve and a green cloth bandage. The blade is longer to fit more of the blade in the show. I've also drawn the blade broken and how it looked discarded on the floor. The arm is covered in blood and mods, and I also improved the silhouettes of Seiko to have it on a larger scale. I've redrawn. For my fourth final piece, I've added in the icon of his ability, and I like the background. The silhouettes are too static and don't actually show the new arm. I also need to improve the icon of the activate ability. I don't really like the font or text either. And I also want to improve my blade design and make the arm look more prosthetic. Let me see that. Okay, this is my new mood board for the arm. Here's my new mood board for the sword. And lastly, my ability icon. As you can see at the moment, these are GIFs of them transforming, so sort of how the lightning effect works. And here's my new final piece. I've gone for a more animated look on my arm. I've got a new Titan transformation icon which incorporates the lighting, and the blade will be inserted in the gap between the bandages and the hand, and the blade will be broke if used too much, and it looks far more realistic. Here's just where everything is labelled. Final design improvements. My first improvement was to redraw and design the arm to make it look more prosthetic. I did this by first drawing out the original Seiko arm and then added the sleeve and cloak when colouring it. I decided to use flat colours. This was done to better differentiate the two arms, as well as have a style closer to the style in Attack on Titan. When redrawing the sword, I made it look more 3D by shading in the sharp end of the blade to make it look like it was pointing inwards near the end. I then redrew the silhouettes to include the arm and the silhouette as well as the showing movement. I can then redrew this. I then changed the layout of the text to make it easier to read, as well as changing the font to a written Japanese style. This fitted better with the style of Seiko and made it look more visually pleasing. I also rearranged the layout of the drawing. When this was done, to better show what was on the page as well, when we drew the arm, I gathered 3 new mood boards that split up different sections between the arm, the sword, and the transformation icon. What went well? I liked how the drawing for the arm turned out, and I was happy with the result. I liked how the arm looked with the detail on the prosthetic, and I liked the colours used and how the arm looked with the sleeve and cloak torn up. So I do like the background. I think it fits well with Seiko style. It's like the Attack on Titan theme. I like the transformation icon, how I made it look like light. But even better if I included more silhouettes and included some to show the transformation process. I've added in. I changed the background on the transformation icon to red rather than a skin tone color, and then again I changed it again to include a gradient. And here we have the first true piece with the final piece. And this is how originally I was drawing on paint. I've since got an actual drawing process, but this just shows how I would have drawn, starting off by drawing out a sketch of what I'm drawing. Then I'll do line work, erase out the original sketch, base colors, and then shadows. And that is my final product of using this method. And that was my project